Little black boy from the hood. And where I'm from, they say that we no good. Just because I'm black, everything I do is misunderstood. Little engine that could, if I could lift the hood and fix stuff, people. Wanna be rich, people. It's game time. I ain't finna sit on this bench, people. It's fourth and goal, and we only need us an inch, people. But defense is really lynch, and they pinch people. My grandma used to say, just work and get your pension, people. But I saw grandma fall. She got tired and retired without enough to stay retired at all. Ironically, her slavery still inspired us all, just to be something different. We had to change up. Pit bulls, not sheep. They couldn't tame us or chain us to that big tree in the backyard that was tore up. And even when they did, we broke loose, chased two of us. Officially had a combination, four of us. I spoke the truth, not the words. Smith that Maury was. DJ made the beats and Coda told the jokes. Orangutan Production Studios gave us hope. No one believed in us. I know it now because no one ever spoke seed in us. They gave us doubts. Late nights in the studios, I had to get this out. Mama didn't understand. She chose to kick me out. Press. Listen, y'all, if you can see, hear, smell, taste, and feel, then your body works. And if your body works, you have everything you need to win. Peace, family. I am Yusha Assad, recording artist, speaker, master certified professional coach, and I'm welcoming you to another drop of truth, discipline, and intentional alignment. This is Working and Winning with great care, where we don't just strive to do great things, we strive to do all things with great care, purpose, and intention. Our goal is definitely to win, but we want to win right, and we want to win righteously. Every week, y'all, I pull up to share what I'm learning and what I'm practicing, what I'm challenging myself and what I'm challenging you to walk out in real life. This ain't performance. This is practice. This is presence. And this is how we build what God intended. So wherever you are right now, in your car, on a walk, in the gym with your headphones on, wherever you are, tap in. Let's work and win.
I'm a recording artist, motivational speaker, master certified professional coach, and I do a lot of different things. I got to this place because I was somehow willing to believe that I could create a future that hadn't been seen yet.
This is dope, though. I love it, bro.
Right? When you hear all of the different things that I do, I've been told in my life, you do too much. And I'm glad to say that I did not follow those thoughts and allow that to hinder me from what I do. God gave me 5 things: speaking, teaching, coaching, training, and performing.
All right, y'all, this is actually episode 6 of our first season of Working and Winning with Great Care. Today's topic is the effect of hope on student success, measuring the hope of others. This episode, y'all, will dive into hope, what it is, how it can be measured in others, and then why people are experiencing the level of hope that they are. This episode is essentially about belief and desire, and how these two things are essentially the determining factors of success or failure for most things. So for those of you who are tapped in, right, whether you're an executive leader, an educational leader, or teacher, a parent, whatever, a mentor, a community leader, this episode is for you. So tap in, right? But first, let's recap our conversation from last week, which was called Leading with Empathy, Creating an Environment that Grows People, right? So last week in our episode, we discussed how empathy can be cognitive, emotional, or compassionate. It is essential to achieving success in your leadership with those who depend on you most. The ultimate goal is to create spaces of safety, trust, communication, accountability, and grace. I say that again. The ultimate goal is to create spaces of safety, trust, communication, accountability, and grace. Spaces that improve morale, help solve conflict, enhance overall results, and grow people. Ultimately, y'all, we want to make our companies, our schools, and our homes a place where people want to be. Now, we also discussed the 9 core conditions of empathetic leadership, which is wisdom, validation, emotional intelligence, co-creation, support and accountability, genuine love for people, self-awareness, cultural humility, and presence, right? To improve on empathy as a leader, we must prioritize discovering how these core conditions currently exist for us, and then be intentional about implementing or improving each one of them one by one, right? Taking that time. All right, y'all, finally, we also want to note that environments lacking empathy can become oppressive. forcing those you lead into their reptilian responses of fight, flight, or freeze, all of which are trauma responses to spaces that lack true safety and care. All right, now let's get back to this week. Once again, the topic of this week is the effect of hope on student success, measuring hope in others. You are bigger than you think you are. You are bigger than what you think you are, he said, but you can never be bigger than what you think you are. Y'all, as I sat in a pew with my friend's funeral in 2021, these were the words that were spoke by the preacher. You're bigger than what you think, but you'll never be bigger than what you think. I had never heard anyone start a funeral eulogy like that, right? He went on to explain that my friend's ability to move or to be more was now over. But for us, we still have time, time to be more, time to be greater, time to be bigger. He asked us, do we have the belief? Have we seen ourselves in a bigger capacity? And what is it that we want? What is it that we're striving for? He reminded us that the driving force, the belief that we can achieve what we want, is really all we need. Everything else will be provided, shared, given, or placed within our grasp. This belief, he said, shapes how we see every situation and determines whether we view challenges as roadblocks or necessary lessons to help us progress further. He was essentially speaking about hope. Now, hope, y'all, is not a foreign topic for me, right? I come from a hopeful people. I come from the teachings of the civil rights movement and from Jesse Jackson, his voice ringing out, keep hope alive. We know that. I've actually read The Audacity of Hope by Barack Obama. I've researched and studied Dr. Duncan Andrade's work on hope. But I've also taught and served in communities that at times, very much at times, felt hopeless, or where hope wasn't enough, right? If it were not for my own study and work with hope, I wouldn't have the lens that I have today. So as we discuss hope, I invite you in knowing that this word hope has been used very ambiguously, often with emotional excitement, yet many still struggle to achieve sincere results to its mention, right? So still, I want to press on you today that hope is the foundation of all success. It is the catalyst for all results, and it is what we need to move forward, not only as a people, but for ourselves, our children, and for our legacy. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the definition of hope. Now, hope is defined by Oxford's definition. Hope is defined as a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. It can be understood as a belief that something good will happen, right? Now, from this definition, we get two major components, right? We get expectation, which can also be translated as belief, and we get desire, which can be translated as want, all right? One could then, based on this definition, say that the highest level of hope is where there's a high level of belief and a high level of desire for something. On the other hand, the lowest level of belief would be a low level or complete lack of belief and a low level or complete lack of desire for something. Now, y'all, it is also important for us to note here that hope is always tied to a particular thing or outcome, right? This means no person can ever truly be considered hopeless or completely hopeful, right? People are generally hopeful about certain things and maybe hopeless or lacking in hope in others. For example, a student may not have the highest level of hope that they could graduate from college, but may be very hopeful about becoming a rapper, right? So no one is ever truly hopeless or hopeful. Hey, y'all. So when we're examining or discussing hope, we must remember that it is always related to a specific outcome, right? At the highest level of hope, you'll find high belief and high desire. And at the lowest level, you might find no belief and no desire. And of course, there's a range in between, space in the middle that also needs to be defined. We can use the definition of hope to do that, to define that middle space. So if we get back to it, hope, the definition of hope can help us identify or define this kind of middle space between high belief and high desire and low belief and low desire. From this definition, y'all, we can actually create 4 quadrants to understand a person's level of hope as it pertains to a particular outcome. So we're going to do quadrant A, quadrant B, quadrant C, and quadrant D, right? So for quadrant A, we're going to say that is a person having high belief but low desire, right? High belief, low desire. For quadrant B, we're going to say that that's a person having low belief, high desire. For quadrant C, we're going to look at that as a person having low belief and low desire. And for quadrant D, we're going to look at that as a person having high belief and high desire, right? Now, for each of these quadrants, y'all, we will discuss what they mean, the potential outcomes, and the behaviors we may observe. To make this practical, I want us to focus on one example. So the example that we're going to focus on is a 10th grade student looking ahead towards high school graduation. We'll ask, what does this mean for the student if they're in whatever quadrant they're in? What does it mean for them? What is the likely outcome of people in that quadrant? And what behaviors may be associated with that quadrant? So when we see them, we can identify what quadrant is in. Now, for a 10th grade student, y'all, looking forward to high school graduation who falls into quadrant A, which is high belief and low desire, this means the student has a sincere belief that they can graduate and that they have what it takes to do it. However, they have a low desire, which means that they don't want to, right? So they have a high belief that they can, but they don't want to. The likely outcome is that they will graduate, but, you know, as social media would say, barely, right? Behaviors you might see from a student in this category include poor attendance, right? Directly tied to their low desire to actually be in school. Because of their high self-efficacy, they might be smart, right? They might be smart Alex. They might be them kids who kind of give you their smart mouth. Or, in contrast, this could be a very respectful student who knows how to navigate adult environments. These are students, y'all, who can produce excellent work when they show up. But they're rarely in school. Now, you might ask, what would cause a student to truly believe in their abilities but not want that particular outcome? And I've seen many examples of this in my time. One example was a student I taught actually here in DC at Maya Angelou Public Charter School. One of the most intelligent students I've ever had. They could easily grasp the concepts, complete assignments, and do well on work despite missing many lessons. They knew the school system, though, very well, right? Well enough to show up during the last 2 or 3 weeks of every quarter, complete makeup assignments, and pass their classes, right? And then get back to living their life. This was their normal routine. This is how they finesse the system. When I asked why they didn't apply themselves fully and attend regularly or aim higher academically, their trust in me did allow them to be honest. And this particular student told me that they were already making money, right? And school was actually in the way of what they really wanted to do. They came to school only out of respect for their mother and grandmother. For this student, y'all, their belief in success was high, right? But that belief wasn't tied to scholastic outcomes. It explained their ability to navigate adult environments, show respect, and demonstrate leadership among their peers. But it also demonstrated a lack of attendance, incomplete work, and minimal academic engagement until they were there, right? This student did graduate, y'all, but with a very low GPA, did not go to college. And over 10 years later, I still know them. We had a recent conversation where they thanked me for staying on them and admitted that their decisions back then were a little short-sighted, focused on what they could achieve in a moment outside of school. They are now, right? They now wish they made different choices, but even today, right, this student still remains very confident in their ability to win in life and are really doing some significant things here in DC. Of course. So that was quadrant A, y'all. High belief, low desire. Now let's talk about quadrant B. Quadrant B, low belief, high desire. For a 10th grade student looking ahead toward high school graduation, this means they do not truly believe in their ability to graduate, but they really want to, right? This means they don't believe, but they want to. There are likely two outcomes for the student, y'all. They're either going to graduate or they're not. And the direction they go in really depends on one crucial ingredient. And we'll get to that in a moment. So let's talk about this. Behaviors that you might see from a student in this category often fall into two distinct patterns. The first one is the super quiet student, right? This is the one who avoids being called on in class because they don't believe they have the right answer. They rarely ask questions, fearing that their questions will sound stupid. They try to stay unnoticed because being noticed might expose what they don't know. They don't want to be called on. You know the ones, and if you call them, like, why are you calling me? Now, the second one is the loud, rambunctious, disruptive student who distracts from the lesson and avoids paying attention, right? All in an effort to stay focused, to shift focus away from the work. The work frustrates them. The work irritates them. The work presents a daily reminder of where they feel inadequate. In both cases, y'all, whether quiet or disruptive, this particular student is asking for the same thing. Y'all say it out loud. I know you already know. Help. All right. The student is asking for help. As experienced educators, parents, executive leaders, whether we're dealing with students or our team, we must be careful, y'all, not to misinterpret these behaviors, right? In urban schools, especially those with high disciplinary issues, it's easy to label the quiet, non-abrasive student as a good student simply because they don't cause problems. But when we overlook them, we create a problem for them. That quiet student who doesn't participate still needs attention, focus, and support, and just as much as the loud and disruptive student. So support is the determining factor in whether this student graduates or not. Now, who might this student be, right? They could be a student who has never seen anyone in their family graduate. Who could this student be, y'all? This could be a student who has never seen anyone in their family graduate. They could have experienced teenage pregnancy, the death or loss of a parent, or a parent experiencing incarceration. They could live in a community where education isn't valued or prioritized. For me, y'all, I know firsthand what this is like to be in this category. My mother graduated high school in the 60s, but my father stopped after 10th grade. And y'all, while my parents discussed me going to school, you going to school, right? And mostly because they both work and no one could stay home, right? So you going to school, rain, shine, sleet, snow, hungry, you going to school. It was not a central focus in our lives, right? I saw many men in my community, especially my peers, never finish school. And this is common in low socioeconomic urban communities. And in some cases, it can be even worse in low socioeconomic rural communities like the one I'm from, especially in the South. The key point is this, y'all. This student in category B actually wants to graduate. How do we know? Because they show up to school every day. They're always there. That's the proof of desire. And with the right support, they actually can win. So let's get into quadrant C. Quadrant C, we're looking at is low belief, low desire, both on the lower side. A 10th grade student in quadrant C, y'all, with low belief, low desire, doesn't believe they have what it takes to graduate, and they don't want to, right? So they don't believe and they don't want to. Likely outcome is that they will not graduate. This is also critical because in 10th grade, they are approximately 16, right? Which means they are legally able to drop out. So for many students in this category, that's exactly what happens. This is often the final record of that student, right? A chronic dropout case in the making. Now, the behaviors of this student, because their desire is low, once again, they are really rarely in school. Chronic absences are common. Even when they are in school, they are disengaged, running the hallways, running around, sitting silently in the back of the class with no participation. Often, though, they're simply not there at all. If they haven't officially dropped out, their behavior patterns are still leading them towards failing year after year. So yes, this is the student who may be experiencing a dropout, and their behavior patterns are really still leading them towards failure year after year, even if they do decide to come to school. Now, here's the question. Why might their belief be so low, right? The reason can mirror those in quadrant B, right? Trauma, incarcerated parents, loss of loved ones, unstable housing, community violence, or any number of hardships that can make it difficult for them to truly believe in oneself. Now, why might their desire be low, right? In most cases, the student used to be a quadrant B student, which is true, right? Someone who actually wanted to graduate and didn't believe they could, and then never got the support they needed, right? Over time, they gave up. It's like when I was younger, right? And my brother would hold out $100 bill, basically telling me that if I could snatch it before he closed his hand, I could have it. I tried again and again, but he was always faster than I was. So eventually I stopped trying altogether and said, I don't even want your $100 anyway, right? The truth was I lost my desire because the goal felt more and more unattainable. And to protect myself from the pain of not getting it, I quit. This is often what happens when quadrant B students are ignored. They can slip into quadrant C. Now, this is why we shouldn't write off a quadrant C student. Quadrant C students, y'all, can be some of the most challenging in a school, but also some of the most powerful catalysts for change. A student who no longer believes in your system and who no longer desires to be a part of it may, with the right support, become the one who creates something new. This reminds me of Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little, also known as Detroit Red, and later as El Haj Malik Shabazz. He is a powerful example of this, right? After his dream of becoming a lawyer was crushed by his teacher, watching his world crumble, his father being murdered by the KKK, his mother losing her mental health, and him and his siblings forced to fend for themselves, Malcolm essentially became, by all accounts, a Quadrant C student. But in prison, we know that Malcolm met a man by the name of Brother Baines, who gave him insight, knowledge, wisdom, and purpose. The guidance that he received transformed him into one of the greatest change agents in Black history and in our community. So remember, your Quadrant C students may be your most disrespectful, disengaged, and difficult to reach. But with the right help, they could become your most valuable assets, leaders who help you create something new, something more impactful, with greater value than you could have even imagined. Quadrant C, low belief, low desire. All right, now let's get to Quadrant D. So I want to note this, Quadrant D. Quadrant D, absolutely, Aaliyah. This is an excellent analysis of when to intervene and support students. Yes, absolutely. And this is what the framework, this matrix, essentially 4-quadrant or 4-matrix framework of hope gives us, right? This understanding of where students are, and then eventually how to address it. So this is the first part of a professional development that we do with the Hope Campaign. This is the introduction to the topic, where we then branch off after this to talk about what interventions are needed and when to use those interventions. So let's do Quadrant D. Quadrant D, this is high belief and high desire. For a 10th grade student looking forward to high school graduation, being in Quadrant D, high belief and high desire means that the student has a strong self-efficacy, believing that they can and will complete high school successfully, and they have a strong desire to make it happen. So the likely outcome, y'all, is that they will graduate. Behaviors associated with this quadrant include being a student who regularly participates in class, has a very high attendance rate, turns in the majority of their work, asks questions, supports others, and gets involved in school activities. Now, does this mean that they're a perfect student, right? Do they always come to school on time? Do they always do every assignment? And of course, the answer is no, right? No one is perfect. But this is a student who needs less support than others, even though they still require guidance and encouragement to maintain their momentum. Now, why might a student believe in themselves at this level? This could be, y'all, a legacy student, right? Someone from a 2-parent home or a strong single-parent home where education is a priority, preached and pushed. They may have received consistent support throughout elementary and middle school, leaving them with a solid educational foundation and few academic deficits. They may have had highly active parents or strong daycare in their early childhood experience between the ages of 0 and 5, right? Giving them the knowledge and skills they needed before entering school. In many cases, y'all, these students have not faced the kinds of broken home situations or life disruptions that can make learning more difficult. However, this isn't also always the case. Sometimes students from low socioeconomic communities are highly engaged and deeply driven to succeed because they want to change their lives. Never, students from different backgrounds. So I love something that Bob Marley always said. Bob Marley says, when you come from darker beginnings, you either become a really, really good person or a really, really bad person. And some may say that's oversimplified, but I got what Bob was saying, right? The struggle of early life can push you to want to really change not only things for yourself, but for people around you. And that can create that level of desire. But it can also, coming from really darker beginnings can cause you to be a child who just accepts that they are in this space and they do what they got to do to survive this space. Overall, right, we want to create that desire in students to win, and then we want to give them the supports that they need, the knowledge that they need, the insights that they need to cause them to have a high level of expectation that they can. So in summary, y'all, hope is defined as a feeling of expectation and desire, not or, but and has given us a 4-quadrant tool that we can use to measure the hope of others, specifically our students or children. Using the examples described in this talk, you can study student behaviors and make a solid determination of which quadrant they fall into. Now, once you know a student's quadrant, you can then initiate intentional intervention strategies, either to help them believe more strongly or to increase their desire toward the outcome. We will talk more about this in the Workin Winnin with Great Care live number 7, episode 7, where we'll go a little deeper into what the Hope Campaign is and what it's all about. I want to read off to you all really quickly what the Hope Campaign is, and then we'll get into our challenge for the day. So for those of you who may work in schools or have students, children who are in schools, and you would love for their schools to get what we offer, the Hope Campaign, y'all, is essentially a framework for sustainable growth through culture and climate. The Hope Campaign is a coaching-based social growth framework designed to help campuses achieve measurable, lasting results in core areas such as academic achievement, attendance and behavior, family and community engagement, staff retention, and culture alignment, y'all. Its unique strength, the unique strength of the Hope Campaign lies in us using culture and climate as the foundation for transformational school-wide growth without relying on compliance-based mandates for a one-size-fits-all program. Rooted in the science of hope and human motivation, the Hope Campaign turns abstract vision into live, lived experience, creating school cultures where belief becomes the driving force behind growth. This is Dr. C.R. Snyder from The Psychology of Hope, written in 1994. He says, hope is not just a feeling, it's a measurable driver of success. Research shows that students with higher levels of hope earn better grades, cope with challenges more effectively, and are more likely to stay in school. And so I gave you all that insert of what the Hope Campaign is about to let you know that we are available. Me and my team are available to come and offer professional development to your school or individuals who may need this to get to the next level. Now, let's get to the challenge of the day. For those of you who were tapped in the entire time. Now, y'all, each week I initiate a challenge for us, right? Connected to the topic of today. It is important that we leave from the inspired thought to produce action, right? Growing up, I was always told that knowledge is power. But in college, a man told me that applied knowledge is power. And so in the spirit of that, we want to be intentional about challenging ourselves and been giving space for you to challenge yourself as well. So for today, y'all, the challenge questions for this week are all about checking your understanding of the previous knowledge that I just dropped. So I'm going to ask you a set of questions. So here's the first question, and I'm going to go over the quadrants for you again, right? One more time. Quadrant A is high desire or high belief, low desire. I believe, I don't want to. Quadrant B, low belief, high desire. I don't believe, but I want to. Quadrant C, low belief, low desire. I don't believe, and I no longer want to because you ain't helped me. And then quadrant D, high belief, high desire. So here are the questions, here to check for understanding questions for today. First question is, which two quadrant of students are most likely to never be in school? Which two quadrant of students are most likely to never be in school? Number two, which two quadrants of students will most likely never ask a question? Which two quadrant of students will most likely never ask a question? Quadrant A, once again, is high belief, low desire. Quadrant B, low belief, high desire. Quadrant C, low belief and low desire. Quadrant D, high belief and high desire. Which two quadrants of students will most likely never ask a question? Question three is, which two quadrants of students get in the most trouble from teachers, administrators, and parents when they mess up? When they mess up. Which two quadrants of students get in the most trouble from teachers, administrators, and parents when they mess up? Now, while y'all are thinking about that and responding, I'm going to go ahead and give you question 4. Question 4 really for you, right? Question 4 says, during your time in high school, during your high school experience, which quadrant were you in for the majority of that time? I ask you that because people can shift. You can be in, A one day and B the next. But the question is, where were you at the majority of the time? Right. So now for the answers. Question 1. Question 1 was, which two quadrant of students are most likely to never be in school, right? The answer here, y'all, is quadrant A and quadrant C. This is because both quadrant A and quadrant C have low desire. Low desire shows up as poor attendance and not being in school at all. But I'll do it again. Question 1, y'all, was which two quadrant of students are most likely to never be in school? That answer is quadrant A and C. This is attached to the low desire. Low desire shows up as poor attendance, right? When they don't show up, they don't want to be there. Unless there's something else specifically wrong, and we'll talk about that in our next live. Question 2 was, which 2 quadrant of students will most likely never ask a question? I saw so many answers. A lot of y'all were saying C, but y'all left out B. So I'm sure many of you assumed the answer was going to be quadrant C, which was correct, right? Students who have low belief and low desire, but it's also quadrant B. Quadrant B and quadrant C are the quadrants with the lowest belief. This happens because students are either completely disengaged from the lesson, or they fear that they'll get the wrong answer, or that the question that they will ask will quote unquote sound stupid, right? Now, this is very unfortunate, right? Because in many cases, the difference between a smart, quote unquote, smart student and a student with academic challenges is based off the question, right? The confident, high believing student thinks I'm supposed to get this. So when they don't, they ask a question. But then the academically struggling student, however, may believe I'm not going to get it anyway. So they stay silent. Once again, many times the difference between a better performing student and a low performing student is simply believing that they're supposed to get it, which leads to them asking a question. Both the low performing and the high performing student didn't get it, but the high performing student is like, I'm supposed to. So break it down for me again. All right, question 3 was, which 2 quadrant of students get in the most trouble from teachers, administrators, and parents when they mess up? So many of you said B and C. The answer is A, but mainly D. Mainly D, high belief, high desire, right? Students who have high belief in themselves radiate confidence, especially when their actions show they truly want to graduate. When they mess up, the hopeful people around them, right? The hope that people have for them often comes out in how these people respond to their challenging moments. Students in quadrant A, right, but especially those in quadrant D, get the most trouble when they mess up because people around them truly believe in them as well, still have a strong level of hope for them. All right. I also want to note this. This is a note for human nature. When you have a high level of hope, that means that the energy permeates into the space around you and convinces others to also have a high hope too, whether it's hope for themselves or hope in you, right? So here's my challenge. As administrators, teachers, leaders, and parents, it is important that we do not let the students' level of hope dictate our level of hope for them, especially when a student is experiencing a troubling moment. Our hope for them must supersede their hope for themselves so that we continue to foster an environment for growth. We can't give up because a student gave up, and I've seen it happen. We can't give up because a parent gave up, because I've seen it happen. We have to see in them what they cannot see in themselves. We have to speak to it. We have to call to it. We have to condition them for it. And we'll talk more about that in our next live. All right, great stuff, y'all. Let's get to our 4-step manifestation plan today. The last segment, y'all, is called Workin Winnin. This is Workin Winnin. If you can see, hear, smell, taste, and feel, then your body works. And you have everything you need to win, right? All you need now is the how. So here is a 4-step process we use to bring our dreams, plans, and intentional efforts into fruition. We will revisit them weekly and set new goals and intentions as we go forward. Now, the 4 steps are: number 1, vision and belief; number 2, speech; number 3, gratitude; and number 4, action, right? Now, let me explain them separately, then make space for you all to process what they mean. So number 1, vision and belief. This says, what do I see clearly or believe is possible for me this week? That's the question you're asking, vision and belief. What do I see clearly or believe is possible for me this week? Whether that's something that you can physically see or something that your imagination, your spirit, or that the Most High is planting on you. What can you see? 2 is speech. Speech says, how will I use the vibrant power of words to create for myself? Right? Understanding the law of vibration. How will you use your words to create for yourself? Gratitude, number 3, is how will I lighten my spirit? How will you lighten your spirit? Find joy, love, and peace, and be receptive to all the good available to me. And number 4, action. What will I do to move toward it? Right? What is my work of this week? How will I track my alignment and purpose? All right, y'all, let's close out for today. Y'all, if this hit you, comment, tell me what you took away from it. When this Edited version is posted on Thursday at 7 a.m. Please share it with a brother or sister who needs this reminder. Administrator, teacher, someone within your community who you feel like could benefit from this intro to the Hope Conversation. Now, y'all, if this message spoke to you, right, imagine what we can do to unlock the hearts of your team in your school or your organization live in the room, right? I don't just want to speak to your people. I actually want to leave an imprint and move spirits and challenge the way we show up in schools, and to really be the catalyst for changing things that were done intentionally to keep our people below, right? So bring me to speak at your next event, your retreat, or your leadership session. To create this opportunity, just go in my DMs and type the word speak to get it started, and I will follow up with you. Now, you all know that I'm a master certified professional coach, right? So if you're tired of living small and you're ready to live big, or you ready to live bigger, right? Maybe you're living big, but you want to go bigger and you want to start moving with clarity, conviction, and care, I got you, right? My one-on-one and group coaching programs are essentially designed to help align your mindset and get you to the places that you need to be, improve your leadership, help you develop the daily habits that are going to get you to your higher purpose. And so if you want to coach with me, just take the first step towards that intentional, sustainable growth. You can also go into my DMs and type the word coach, and then I will follow up and we can talk about what's possible. Overall, y'all, this is Working and Winning with Great Care, live session number 6. This particular topic is the effects of hope on student outcomes, measuring the hope of others. It's been a great talk. It's been a great time with y'all thinking through what this could be like. Next week, live 7 will be the follow-up. But y'all know what it is. Working and winning with great care. The goal is to always do the things that are going to help us get to the promise. The promise is here and it's coming. And it just requires a level of discipline and movement, right, with great care to get what is already promised to us on the other side of intentional work. So I love y'all. See y'all next week. Peace.
Greatest things don't happen overnight. They take time and patience. So instead of waiting, struggle and be patient, cause greatness has been prepared for you.
They think it happens overnight, but greatness is a story. I couldn't settle for average, I broke it with it for glory. Moved about a complacement, changed my address to victory. So when it's testimony, I'm really just writing history. They talk about the successes of life like it's a mystery. I disagree, cause for me it's a product of my decisions. Trusting in Most High is my first thought, and the rest of between staying humble and never asking for permission. I graduated from poverty,